Yeah. Good evening, folks. This is Deb, and Wednesdays are rough for me. All right, I'm getting off to a late start with this because I don't get home from work until about 6:45, and I need some time to decompress. But I cannot go to bed without talking about last night's game because the Dallas Wings came in with an 8-24 record and left with a 9-24 record in a game that should never, ever, 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 ever have been lost. Okay. And it was really hard to watch this game. You know, the stats don't really tell you much of anything with this game. Okay, because what happened is, to me, they looked like they were totally disorganized at points in this game. Okay. And I'm going to say it again. They don't have a floor general. They don't have Caitlyn Clark. The Indiana Fever are not better without Caitlyn Clark. In fact, they are at 500 ball at 10-10 without Caitlyn Clark. Okay. They also now don't have their backup point guard, Sydney Colson. But even if they did, there isn't another point guard in the WNBA who can see the floor, command the floor, direct the players, and keep them on task like Caitlyn Clark. End of story. Okay? I don't care if Stephanie White wants the offense run through Kelsey Mitchell. She is not a point guard. Now, I'm going to want to make one thing perfectly clear. I liked Kelsey Mitchell even before Caitlyn Clark became a member of the Indiana Fever. She is a great shooting guard. When she is on, okay, she is literally, in my opinion, one of the best shooting guards in the WNBA. But when she is off, she is off. As all shooting guards are, they have good days and bad days. And sometimes when Kelsey Mitchell is having a bad shooting day, she doesn't know enough to give up the ball. That's the only criticism I have of her. Okay. Now, I know she had one game where she played point guard and she had 8 assists. That's great. But Kelsey Mitchell isn't going to do that consistently. Case in point here. Let me give you some stats on the other side here before we get into the game stats. Caitlyn Clark has missed 19 of 32 games this year. She is leading the Indiana Fever in assists at 8.8 a game, even without playing. She is the Indiana Fever floor general. End of story. I don't want to hear it anymore. There is no other player in the WNBA that has the basketball and floor IQ of Caitlyn Clark. Period. Full stop. I don't want to even argue anymore. Okay. So just a quick look at some numbers. Okay. Kelsey Mitchell played the most minutes, 35 minutes, 24 points, 6 rebounds, 2 assists. Decent game. 3 turnovers, by the way. Sophie Cunningham, 34 minutes, 14 points, 2 rebounds, 3 assists, 1 turnover. Lexi Hull, who came back splendidly the other night. Okay. But last night, 24 minutes, no points, 7 rebounds, 3 assists, and 3 turnovers. Natasha Howard, 27 minutes, 12 points, 12 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 turnover. Aaliyah Boston, 30 minutes, 14 points, 5 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 turnover. Okay, then we have the bench. Okay. Now, Odyssey Sims came off the bench last night. She had 1 practice. So she's not judgeable, in my opinion. 12 minutes, no points. Went 0 for 4 in field goals, 1 turnover. Okay. 2 assists. Uneventful. Chloe Bibby had 12 minutes, 11 points, 2 rebounds, no assists, 3 turnovers. Damaris Dantas, 12 minutes, 3 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 turnovers. Timpson, 5 minutes. Okay. 2 rebounds. 2 turnovers. Brianna Turner, 4 minutes. We're back to 4 minutes. 2 points, no turnovers. All right. So that's not really telling you much of anything, right? Except, the fact is that I still see too much of some stuff that I shouldn't be seeing, okay? I don't think I should be seeing. This is my opinion now. Apparently people have a problem when I say stuff unless I am specific about this. This is my opinion now. So I'm giving you my opinion, okay? You are free to disagree with it, as I am free to disagree with yours. So I am not presenting this as fact so that no one gets their underwear in a twist. Natasha Howard should not bring the ball up the court. She is not a guard. She is a forward. Natasha Howard should not be bringing the ball up the court. Aaliyah Boston should not be playing at the top of the key. She needs to be in the paint. She's in the paint when she plays with Caitlyn Clark. Okay? She's in the paint when she plays with Caitlyn Clark because they have the deadliest pick and roll in the WNBA, but she has not had the benefit of that for most of this season. So, I don't know what to say other than the fact that they're in disarray, and I believe they're in disarray for a reason. I do not believe that Stephanie White is a great coach. Okay, I think, that last sequence where she could have called the timeout with, 3 seconds left instead of waiting until the clock wound down at the end of the game to give Kelsey Mitchell that last shot. I don't know why she waited. The ball wasn't going anywhere in Kelsey Mitchell's hands, okay? So, she mystifies me sometimes. Her substitutions still mystify me, okay? And yet, last night, we had, and let me give you one other statistic, okay? The Fever as a team had 17 turnovers. And that resulted in 27 points for the Wings. 17 turnovers resulting in 27 points. Okay? And yes, in the fourth quarter, the Fever made a run at it. But they shouldn't have been in that position to begin with. No matter what the situation is, they're a stronger team than the Dallas Wings. Okay? The Dallas Wings, who were 8-24 going in to Indiana and 9-24 leaving. So, what did Stephanie White do after the game? Instead of owning shit, which she kind of never does, I must say. Although she did say she probably waited too long to call the timeout, which, no kidding. I don't see her as the brain trust that Kelly Kroskoff sees her as, quite frankly. What did she do? She complained about the refereeing. She said that Aaliyah Boston is the worst officiated post player in the league. She never gets a call. She also complained about the officiating with regard to Kelsey Mitchell. Yet all season long, I have never heard her complain once about the way the officiating goes with Caitlyn Clark. Caitlyn Clark, who has been getting beaten up by players for the better part of a year and a half now. Caitlyn Clark, who was driving to the basket in one of her games when she did make it back out onto the floor this year. And Rebecca Lobo called literally 6 fouls on the air on one play. And the officials finally blew the whistle on the 6th infraction of that one play. And it wasn't even the worst foul that was committed against Caitlyn Clark on that play. So this is what pisses me off about Stephanie White, is that she has the premier guard in the league the premier guard in the league, the number 1 guard in the league, not the number 9 guard in the league, like the grousing, jealous females of the WNBA, like voted her, WNBA rather, voted her as the number 9 guard in the league. Give me a break. Because you're guarding her like she's the number 1 guard in the league, and you're bodying her and you're fouling her to stop her because that's the only way to stop her. And yet, Stephanie White says in one commentary, and I'm paraphrasing here, I don't have the exact verbiage here. Yeah, she seems to draw more fouls than anybody else. I really don't know why. We'll have to help her figure that out, or something to that effect. We'll have to help her deal with that and figure out a way around that. But never once did she grouse about the officiating. The officiating is the problem. If the officials blew the freaking whistles, then the fouls against her might stop. Because as we all know, as Paige Beckers has said, she had to learn how to play defense in the pros while fouling, because you can get away with that here. Because the refs swallow the whistle during the game. But yet, she complains about what happens to Aaliyah Boston and Kelsey Mitchell, but not her premier point guard. Not her premier point guard. Not the player that gets picked up under her own basket and is bodied and hacked and held and fouled all the way up the court. What the hell is with that? These are the things that irk me about Stephanie White. She doesn't take ownership of any of the poor decisions that she makes, and she has made plenty this year. And she certainly doesn't jump to the defense of her primary point guard. Or at least, let's put it this way, she didn't before she ended up losing her for the majority of the season. She didn't know why they were targeting Caitlyn Clark. Well, they're targeting Caitlyn Clark not out of hate, but because they can't freaking stop her any other way. Because they know she's not the number 9 guard in the league. That's a game they're playing. A game of, I don't know, jealousy and retribution. They know she's the number 1 guard in the league. And since it's easier to just hack her and physically restrain her and hold her and hit her arms and knock it to the ground than it is to actually play real defense without fouling. Because there's almost no chance you're going to foul out of a game in the WNBA. It's going to be that way. As long as the referees aren't going to be made to blow the whistle on fouls, either routine or serious fouls, then the more players are going to do what they're doing. So there's that. Because as inconsistent as Stephanie White has been in her substitutions, her strategies, this freaking crazy cockamamie offense. By the way, the slow down offense allows the other team to restrain Caitlyn Clark. And we have seen it time and time again. When Caitlyn Clark gets the ball in her hands, like say after she gets a defensive rebound, she wastes no time getting up the court or throwing the ball up the court, full court pass. That's when they're at their best. They are not at their best when Natasha Howard brings the ball up, plodding along, and can't figure out who to pass the ball to. Nothing against Natasha Howard, okay? Good basketball player, not a point guard. Shouldn't be bringing the ball up the court. Kelsey Mitchell, great shooter. Premier shooting guard. Don't bring the ball up the court, okay? She gets lost in dribble land sometimes. These people do not have court vision. So when Caitlyn Clark comes back, they need to stop that nonsense. And even before that, when Odyssey Sims gets her feet under her, they need to stop that nonsense. And let me just say this, that Stephanie White does not know how to use Chloe Bibby or Michaela Timpson or any other forward. She seems to bench people when they get the hot hand. And I'm wondering sometimes if that isn't her, you know, how she made that comment about we're not going to play hero ball. Well, let me just give you a little tip. Let me give you a little tip. I've been watching the NBA for a long time. Okay. And, you know, you guys know I am a Celtics person. I've been watching the Celtics for a long time. I was watching the Celtics before Bird, but when Bird came into the league, I really was watching the Celtics, okay? And Larry Bird involved all of his teammates. He made that team, that 1986 team, was one of the greatest teams I've ever seen in my life. He made everybody on that team better, everybody. But you know what? He had plenty of hero ball nights. He had plenty of nights when he had to put the team on his back to get them where they were going. Some nights you play hero ball, Stephanie, like when it's necessary to win. You know, you don't take the hot hand out so you can give someone else a chance. When the hot hand is the hot hand and you're in the heat of a ball game and you're not leading by 26 points, you leave the hot hand in. Sometimes you play hero ball. Sometimes I think this, we're not going to play hero ball thing, you know, it is like her driving force. And it's driving them to head back to, you know, being a team that's not 18 and 15 or whatever they are right now. I believe they're 18 and 15 right now. They're headed back to 500 ball at this point. And it doesn't get any easier this season from here on out, because now everybody's fighting for a playoff spot. Now everybody's fighting for a playoff spot. They not only don't have Sydney Colson or Ari McDonald, but they don't have Caitlyn Clark yet. And I still think she comes back. That's my opinion, okay? Let me just say that so everybody's clear about that. My opinion. So that means their window of screw-up opportunity is closing. They can't screw up too much more and stay on this trajectory. Yes, they're in third place. I get that. But you know what? When the news came out that Clark was still not yet practicing with the team, their ranking went down to 6 again. That's how much the rest of the league understands what Caitlyn Clark brings to the table. And the rest of the sports world that puts together these rankings. So it would be a good idea if Stephanie White got on the same page with everybody else. So that's it for tonight. You know, I was frustrated. I admit it. You know, these are one of the reasons why I DVR the games, because there are just some things I just cannot watch. And last night, when they started looking disjointed and, you know, they had a lead, they coughed it up, all those turnovers, I just could not. I ended up literally getting up at 1 o'clock in the morning and watching some of the, you know, portions of the game. And then I realized I had to get up to go to work at 5:15, and I went back to sleep again. So it was just one of those nights. But before I go, I think it's only fitting, because this is being reported in places, about what Odyssey Sims said about Caitlyn Clark last year when she played Caitlyn Clark. Now, she played in a game that Dallas won over the Indiana Fever, and Caitlyn Clark was playing. And in that game, Odyssey Sims finished with 24 points, had 9 assists and 3 rebounds. Caitlyn Clark also finished that game with 24 points, but she had 19 assists, 19 in that game, which broke the WNBA single game record. And this is what Odyssey Sims had to say about Caitlyn Clark after that game. She posted this, by the way, on her Twitter account. She's playing at a very high level, especially with her assists. There's a lot of shots she turned down because she was looking for her teammates. I mean, that just speaks volumes of how she is as a player. And it does. And this is what I'm telling you about why Caitlyn Clark is not the number 9 guard in the league. She's the number 1 guard in the goddamn league. And every other player in the WNBA knows it. And that is why they spend all of their time trying to body her all the way up the court. Case closed. The Indiana Fever are not better without Caitlyn Clark. I will talk to you all tomorrow. I got some stuff in mind. It'll be a better day because I'm not working until, the moon goes down. I will see you all then. You guys have a great night. Get some sleep, will you? I know I will. Later.